My name is Claire Donovan, and I'm 28 years old. It was supposed to be a quiet evening, the kind where we would sit together, winding down after a long week. But that night changed everything. I had just walked into the living room after a long day at work, and there she was, Victor, my partner of 3 years. The atmosphere was tense, as if something was hanging in the air, something unsaid. "Why are you still talking to him?" I asked, my voice shaking, though I tried to stay calm. She looked at me, her face flushed with frustration. "You need to get over this. Ryan and I are just friends." Just friends? I had heard that line so many times, it didn't make sense. Not anymore. Not when every important moment in our relationship seemed to have taken a backseat to Ryan and his never-ending crises. The truth hit me like a slap in the face. All this time, I had sacrificed for us, putting my career on hold, waiting for her to choose me over him. And yet, I still felt like the second option. But tonight, I was done asking for her to prioritize me. "I've made my decision," I said, my voice finally firm. It wasn't just about Ryan anymore. It was about my future, about my life. I stood there, watching her eyes well up with tears, and I felt a strange sense of peace. A software architect at a tech company, living in a small but cozy apartment with the woman I loved. Or at least that's what I thought. Our relationship had been full of passion and excitement when we first started dating 3 years ago. We met at a work event, both passionate about our careers. The chemistry was undeniable. At first, I was excited. She was beautiful, driven, and always had time for me. But over time, the cracks started showing. The problem was Ryan, Victor's ex, who had somehow always remained a part of our lives. At first, I told myself it was just a friendship. She had promised me he was a part of her past, that he was a friend she cared about, and it didn't bother me. But the calls, the texts, the constant need for support, it never stopped. I felt like an outsider in my own relationship. It started slowly. She'd cancel our plans to help him through his emotional problems, work stress, and personal life issues. I tried to understand. I even tried to comfort her when she told me about his struggles. But something started to shift in me, something I couldn't ignore. Victor never seemed to question Ryan's constant need for her. She never set boundaries. I felt like a stranger in my own home, watching her give him attention that should have been mine. She never questioned the fact that Ryan needed her more than I did. And when I got an offer to move to London for a major promotion, a dream job in my field, Victor couldn't even consider it. She couldn't leave because Ryan was going through a breakup. I understood her need to be there for him, but I was devastated. I thought we could start fresh together, but it felt like I was the one who was always put on hold. It wasn't until the second offer came, a better one this time, that I realized how much I had been sacrificing. The chance of a lifetime, an opportunity to lead a team in a city I had always dreamed of living in. I couldn't believe it when I heard the news. The excitement should have been overwhelming. But Victor was still stuck on Ryan. "I can't leave now," she said again. "He needs me. His relationship is falling apart, and I don't know how he's going to cope." I tried to hide my frustration, but it was getting harder. I felt like I was fighting for everything I wanted, while she was always fighting for him. I asked her if she even saw the pattern, the way I kept waiting, sacrificing, and giving. But she didn't get it. She couldn't see the toll it was taking on me. We fought. She told me I was controlling and insecure. She said that if I couldn't accept her relationship with Ryan, I wasn't mature enough for a serious commitment. I stood there, frozen, questioning everything about myself. Was I being unreasonable? But the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I could never understand why she didn't ask Ryan to respect our relationship. Why didn't she set boundaries? Why didn't she prioritize me for once? Instead, it was always me, who was expected to adjust. The breaking point came 3 months ago. We had been talking about our future, about possibly getting engaged. I had envisioned it, a beautiful future together. But when I brought up how Ryan's constant presence in her life was affecting our relationship, she lost it. "Why can't you just trust me?" she snapped. "Why do you always have to make everything about him?" I could hear the anger in her voice, but underneath it, there was something else, a vulnerability, a fear. But the way she had said it, the words cut deeper than I could have imagined. I stood there, my heart pounding, as she told me that I wasn't mature enough to handle a relationship with someone who had close friendships with exes. She made me feel like the problem, like I was the one being unfair, even though I had been the one sacrificing my career for us. I felt like I was losing her, but more than that, I felt like I was losing myself. That was when I realized it wasn't just about Ryan. It was about her, about us. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. What had just happened? How had we reached this point? I never imagined it would come to this. The next morning, Victor was quieter than usual. I could see the guilt in her eyes, but there was also something else, something defensive. She had apologized, but it felt hollow. How could she apologize for something she wasn't even fully aware of? She wasn't seeing the bigger picture. She never did. I kept asking myself the same question. Had I missed something all along? Had I been so blinded by my love for her that I failed to see the truth? The truth that she had been emotionally distant, not because of Ryan, but because of her own unresolved feelings. I walked into the kitchen where she was making coffee and stood by the counter, watching her. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to confront her, to scream. But there was something more powerful than anger building inside me, something I didn't fully understand yet. You need to make a choice, Victor, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. I didn't want to raise my voice, didn't want to come across as controlling. But it was time for the truth. You can't have both. You can't keep putting me second. You need to decide if you want to be with me or if you want to keep living in the past. She turned to me, a hurt look in her eyes. You're not being fair, she whispered, her hands trembling. Ryan is my friend. I can't just cut him out of my life. And I'm not asking you to, I said, trying to keep the frustration from my voice. But I'm not going to keep living like this. You need to respect our relationship or I'm done. She looked at me, her face pale. I don't know if I can, she said, her voice barely a whisper. And there it was, the truth I had been avoiding. She didn't know if she could choose me, not after everything we had been through, not after all the sacrifices I had made. I walked away from the kitchen, feeling the weight of her indecision press down on me. I had done everything for us. Everything. But it still wasn't enough. Things only got worse after that. Victor's behavior became even more erratic. She'd text Ryan constantly, taking long phone calls in the middle of our evenings together. She'd cancel our plans without a second thought, always citing Ryan's latest emergency as the reason. I tried to talk to her about it, tried to explain that I was feeling like a third wheel in my own relationship, but the conversations always ended with her getting defensive, accusing me of being controlling and insecure. I felt like I was suffocating in my own home. The woman I loved was slipping further and further away from me, and all I could do was watch. My friends noticed it too. Marcus, my best friend from work, told me one night, Dude, this isn't normal. She's putting you second every single time. She's not respecting you. And my sister Sarah was even more blunt. You're just her backup, she said, her tone sharp. She's keeping Ryan around, just in case things don't work out with you. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to admit that everything I feared was true. But the more I watched, the more I realized how right they were. Victor had been using me as her safety net. She wanted me to be there for her, but she didn't want to put in the effort to make our relationship her priority. I had given up so much for her, so many opportunities. I had sacrificed my career, my dreams, just to accommodate her. And now I was watching her throw it all away for a man who had no intention of ever putting her first. The tipping point came when I got yet another offer to move to London. It was everything I had dreamed of. A leadership role, a chance to work on high-profile projects, a huge pay raise. But this time, there was no hesitation. I knew what I had to do. I sat in our living room, staring at the email confirmation for my visa. I was going to London. I didn't care about what Victor would say anymore. I had spent 3 years waiting for her to choose me, to choose us, and she had never done it. Now it was my turn to make a choice. I had already started packing my things. I told myself I was ready to leave, but when I looked around, when I saw the apartment we had shared, the life we had built, a wave of emotion hit me. I didn't want to leave. Not really. But I couldn't stay in a relationship where I wasn't valued. That night, I made the call. I accepted the London offer. I didn't ask Victor's opinion. I didn't ask for her permission. I was done asking. And yet, even as I made the decision, I couldn't shake the feeling of loss. I had loved her. I had given everything for her. But I was no longer willing to sacrifice myself for someone who would never choose me first. I didn't tell her right away. I wanted to see how she would react when the truth finally hit. How would she feel when she realized that I wasn't waiting for her anymore? The moment I had been dreading finally came. Victor was in the kitchen when I came home from work. The bags were packed, my passport updated, and everything in my life was in place to leave. I had made my decision, but I needed to see how she would respond to the truth. She was sitting on the couch when I walked in, her phone in her hand, as usual, texting Ryan. She barely looked up when I entered, too absorbed in whatever crisis he was dealing with now. I felt the familiar frustration bubble up in my chest. I had been here before, but this time was different. This time, I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. "Victor," I said, my voice steady but firm. She looked up, her face pale. "What is it?" she asked, her voice cautious, almost as if she already knew something was off. I took a deep breath. "I'm moving to London." Her eyes widened and she froze. "What? What do you mean?" "I mean I'm leaving," I said. "I've accepted the job. I'm moving to London. This is my future, and I'm not going to wait for you to figure out yours." She stood up, her face flushed with panic. "You can't just leave. You didn't even talk to me about it. How can you make such a big decision without consulting me?" I swallowed hard, my heart heavy, but resolute. "I've been consulting you for years, Victor. I've been asking you to prioritize me over Ryan. But you've never done it. You've never made me a priority. So now I'm choosing myself. I'm choosing my career. I'm choosing my happiness." She shook her head in disbelief. "But Ryan—" "Ryan will always come first for you. I'm done being second," I interrupted. "I'm done sacrificing for a relationship where I'm not even in the top spot." The silence that followed was deafening. She looked like she had been slapped, but there was something more. Regret, shock, realization. She could no longer deny it. She had lost me. "You don't understand," she said, her voice trembling. "You don't know what it's like to be there for someone who needs you. He's different." I could feel the years of frustration, the betrayal, the wasted time bubbling up inside me. "I do understand, but the difference is I'm your partner. I'm supposed to be the one you prioritize, and I can't keep waiting for you to figure out that I deserve that too." I walked toward the door, feeling a sense of finality wash over me. "Goodbye, Victor. I'm leaving tomorrow." The fallout from my decision was inevitable. I left that night, feeling the weight of everything I had let go of. But in the days that followed, it was clear that the aftermath would not be easy. Victor didn't take it well, not at all. She bombarded me with texts, emails, and voicemails pleading with me to reconsider. She promised she would change, that she would finally set boundaries with Ryan. But I had heard it all before, her promises, her empty apologies. I couldn't keep waiting for something that would never come. I arrived in London 2 days later, a mix of excitement and sadness in my chest. It felt like the beginning of something new, something I had been longing for. But even as I started my new job and explored the city, the reality of leaving everything behind started to sink in. I had lost Victor, yes, but I had also gained something else. My life was finally my own again. The worst part was hearing from my sister Sarah. She called me one morning, her voice thick with concern. "Victor called me," she said. "She's a mess, Ethan. She's devastated. She's crying all the time. She wants you back." I felt a pang in my chest, but I didn't let it show. "I'm sorry, Sarah, but it's too late for that. She had her chance." Sarah was silent for a moment before speaking again. "I know, but she's not the only one hurting. You are too, Ethan, and I don't think you've let yourself grieve yet." I didn't know how to respond to that. How could I grieve a relationship that had been built on false promises and one-sided sacrifices? How could I mourn someone who had never chosen me first? But the reality was, I wasn't the only one suffering. We both were, in different ways. And maybe, just maybe, this was the kind of pain we both needed to go through in order to heal and move forward. In the weeks that followed, I began to realize just how much I had been enabling Victor's behavior. Every time I let Ryan come between us, every time I put aside my needs for hers, I was silently agreeing to play the role of the doormat. And now that I was out of the situation, I saw it clearly. She was emotionally cheating, even if she never admitted it to herself. It's been a few months now since I moved to London, and looking back, I don't regret a single thing. My life is different now, better. I've thrown myself into my career, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm in control of my own future. I've met someone new, someone who respects boundaries, someone who values me and our relationship equally. It feels real. Victor tried reaching out a few times. She sent me long emails, trying to explain how much she had grown, how she finally understood everything I had been saying. She even told me that Ryan had moved on, and that she was ready to fight for us. But I didn't need to hear it. I had spent 3 years waiting for her to fight for me, and now it was my turn. My turn to choose me. I had learned the hardest lesson. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. And Victor had shown me who she was. I had been second choice for too long, and I wasn't going to let that define me anymore. Life is too short to waste on someone who doesn't choose you, no matter how much you love them. And as for me, I'm finally living the life I deserve, in a place where I'm valued and respected. So, to anyone out there who's waiting for someone to choose them, don't. Choose yourself first, because when you do, everything else will fall into place.